millionaire catch black maid protecting his old mother. What happens next? Shocking. For months the old woman had endured it in silence. She had grown old in that grand house, surrounded by luxury but not peace. Her son, a wealthy man whose work pulled him away more often than not, believed his wife was dutiful, respectful, a proper caregiver in his absence. But behind closed doors, when his footsteps faded down the long marble hall, the mask slipped. It was in the sharp words, the cold looks, the constant reminders. You're slow. You can't even hold a spoon without shaking. Maybe it's time you stop pretending you matter in this house. The young wife, dressed always in tailored suits that spoke of power, never raised her hand. Not at first. She didn't need to. Her words cut sharper than any blade. She mocked the old woman's trembling hands, rolled her eyes at her forgetfulness, sighed loudly when she asked for help, and every time the old mother's spirit wilted a little more, shrinking into herself, apologizing for existing. The only one who ever pushed back was the maid, a black woman in her 40s. She had worked in the household long enough to know the rhythms of cruelty when no one else was watching. She had seen the wife's lips curl in disdain, had heard the muttered insults hiss like poison under breath. At first the maid tried gentle warnings, a subtle clearing of her throat, a quiet, "Ma'am, please," whenever the comments grew too harsh. But each time the wife waved her off, "Don't interfere. This is family business." But the maid knew cruelty wasn't family business. Cruelty was cruelty. Still, she kept her patience because the old woman begged her to. "Please," the mother whispered late at night, tears in her tired eyes. "Don't cause trouble with her. She'll make life worse for me if you do." So the maid endured it too. She stood by protecting as best she could, even if only with small acts. An extra blanket when the wife turned down the thermostat out of spite. A soft word of comfort when harsh words left the old woman trembling. A steady hand when the mocking laughter broke her down. But no one could endure forever. That afternoon, the insults grew sharper than ever. The young wife's patience had evaporated. She stormed into the living room where the old woman sat quietly, knitting with unsteady hands. "Still wasting your time," she sneered. "You drop stitches more than you make them. What's the point of pretending? You're nothing but a burden." The old woman's hands froze, the yarn slipping through her fingers. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. She never did. The maid stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "That's enough, ma'am." But the wife ignored her, circling closer. "You cling to this house like it belongs to you, but it doesn't. It belongs to us now. You're just leftover shadow. A piece of furniture too heavy to throw out." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "Please," she whispered. And then the wife snapped. She leaned forward, voice rising. "I'm done with your whining." Her arm shot up, palm open, fury etched into every line of her face. The old woman flinched, bracing for the strike she had long feared. But the hand never landed. The maid surged forward, her body moving on instinct, and thrust her arm between them. Her palm met the incoming blow, stopping it inches from the old woman's cheek. The sound of the impact, flesh against flesh, rang sharp in the air, echoing louder than any insult ever had. The maid's stance was unshakable, her dark eyes locked on the younger woman with fire. "No more," she said, her voice low but thunderous in its resolve. "You will not lay a hand on her." The wife's mouth fell open in shock, then twisted with rage. "How dare you? You think you can defy me?" "I will," the maid replied, her voice steady, her arm still outstretched as a shield. With her other hand, she pulled the trembling old woman close, wrapping herself protectively around her frail frame. "You've mocked her, humiliated her, broken her down with words, but you will not touch her. Not today, not ever." The old woman clung to her, sobbing quietly into her shoulder. The wife's fury trembled into something sharper, a mixture of outrage and fear. "Do you know what you've just done? When my husband hears about this, you'll be thrown out of this house with nothing. Nothing." The maid's chin lifted. "Then so be it. I'd rather lose this job than lose my soul watching you hurt her." The air in the room grew heavy, thick with the weight of what had just unfolded. The wife stood frozen, hands still hanging in the air, eyes wide at the defiance she had never expected. And then from the doorway, a voice cut through the silence. "What's going on here?" All heads turned. His gaze darted across the scene. His wife, cheeks flushed with anger, her hand still hovering in the air. His mother cowering and clinging to the maid's apron, and the maid herself, standing with her arm outstretched, her body a shield. "What is this?" he demanded, his tone low, but edged with disbelief. His wife was the first to break the silence. She turned quickly, her expression rearranging into one of practiced innocence. "Darling, thank goodness you're here." She jabbed a finger at the maid. "Is overstepping her place. She's poisoning your mother against us, making her fearful, turning her against family. I was only trying to reason with her." The old woman whimpered, her voice shaking. "No, she was going to strike me." The son's eyes widened, but before he could speak, the maid's voice rang out strong and unshaken. "Don't let her twist this," she said, glaring at the younger woman. "I've watched her mock your mother, humiliate her, break her spirit day after day while you were away. And today, when words weren't enough, she lifted her hand to strike her." She stepped forward, her chest heaving with fury. "I stopped her and I'll stop her again if I have to." The wife's face flushed crimson. "Lies. You believe a servant over your own wife?" But the maid's anger burned hotter now, spilling over into words she had held back for too long. "Servant or not, I know what loyalty means. If you can't take care of your mother with dignity, then say so, because I will. If she has no place here, then she will leave with me, and I will treat her like the treasure she is." The words struck the air like thunder. The old woman gasped, clutching the maid tighter. The wife's jaw dropped, her face contorting with outrage. And the son, the millionaire, the man who had built an empire but neglected to see what was happening under his own roof, stood frozen, his chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. "Go with you," he echoed, his voice breaking. His eyes shifted to his mother, fragile and trembling. But for the first time he noticed the way she clung to the maid, not as an employer clings to help, but as a drowning woman clings to her lifeline. He saw it in her eyes, trust, gratitude, and a fear that he had been too blind to protect her from. The maid straightened, her voice sharp with conviction. "Yes, if it comes to that, she goes with me because no wealth, no house, no title is worth staying where she is treated like less than human." Silence followed, thick and suffocating. The wife sputtered, her voice shrill, "You can't mean this. She's his mother. This is our house." But the son cut her off, his voice shaking but firm. "A house?" He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving her. "This is my mother's house before it was ever ours. And if anyone has disrespected her here, it isn't the maid. It's you." The wife rose, shock flashing across her face. He turned, his voice softening as he knelt beside his mother. "Forgive me, Mama," he whispered, tears pricking his eyes. "Forgive me for not seeing. Forgive me for trusting appearances instead of truth." His hand covered hers, trembling. "You will never be alone again." The old woman broke into sobs, her frail body shaking as she clung to both her son and the maid. For once, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel weak. She felt safe. The son rose slowly, his gaze locking on his wife. His voice was cold now, stripped of affection. "Pack your things. You won't raise your hand in this house again. Not against my mother, not against anyone." The wife's mouth opened, but no words came. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she turned and stormed out, her silence louder than her screams could have been. The room exhaled. The maid lowered her arm at last, her shoulders trembling from the weight of what had just unfolded. She looked at the millionaire, expecting anger, dismissal, perhaps even punishment, but instead he placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes heavy with gratitude. "You saved her," he said quietly. "You did what I should have done long ago. You stood where I was too blind to stand. For that I owe you everything." The maid bowed her head, her voice soft. "I only did what any heart should do." And as the old woman leaned into her son's embrace, the maid stood close by, no longer just a servant in that house, but the one who had proven what true loyalty meant. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.